when you look at what is going on in college football, all the changes that are happening, and you got big guys, you got small guys playing. At the end of the day, does it just boil down to how tough you are mentally, and anything they throw at you, you got to be able to handle it. There's no options.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of it's just a war of attrition. With the guys they bring in. I mean, I've seen great athletes. They're just lazy and decide not to do it. Either they don't play or they disappear. But I mean, it's a mental grind more than anything. Obviously, it's a physical grind too, but it's just day after day after day after day. And again, they I'm not going to say, back in the day, you had tougher two-a-days in practices, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of the things and adjustments they've made were smart, just from a health and danger standpoint. But a lot of it literally is just, it is being competitive. I mean, and it's being consistent. I mean, you can't have an off day or on day and then 2 off days and so on and so forth. And, and think to make it. So, but yeah, it's a mental grind. I mean, it's just, even at the high school level, helping out. I mean, it's, it is just, you got a commitment, 3 hours, 4 hours a night, and the heat, is never easy. And, it's just one of those things. And football is a sport that beats you up, physically, but probably more so on the mental side.
Yeah. No, are both of your boys at Christian Brothers this year?
No, just my oldest is at Arkansas, and my daughter too, and then my youngest son is a senior at Christian Brothers.
Okay. All right. So let's get in here. Last week at SEC Media Days in Nashville, it was a lot of fun. We'll talk about Ole Miss here first. Lane Kiffin, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a hell of a coach. I get really sick of the sarcastic remarks a lot of people make. The guy's an elite quarterback coach, and he can get guys that they'll show up on his doorstep, because they want to get to the NFL. He's that good of a coach. Last week, I asked him the question about, hey, guys quitting at the drop of a hat because their pillow's not soft enough and they don't like what's served in the mess hall or whatever. What about, you grew up the son of a coach. Your dad, Monty Kiffin, is a legend. Sticking it out, grinding it out. And I said, Coach, think about how many times everybody's wanting to quit something, but the value of sticking it out and the relationships that you build for the rest of your life. And I got through asking the question, and Kiffin looks at me and he goes, man, that's a lot to unpack. He goes, I said, well, I've been drinking a lot of coffee this morning. He goes, dude, that's Red Bull. You work with me. I haven't even had my coffee yet. So in the interest of full disclosure. So, right. But I loved it. He said, look, I agree with you. He goes, the kids today, they're just different. Whose responsibility is it to fix it? I believe this is what my son Wilson told me. The red guy told me one time, Dad, the kids today aren't the problem. It's the parents. They want to be the kid's best friend. And I get compliments from my kids now. They go, Dad, my son Max the other day is out in the middle of nowhere, calls me during the show, after the show, in Durant, Montana. I'm like, what's happened? He goes, Dad, I left my gas card. I said, where? He goes, in Jackson Hole. It's 4 hours away. I've got to have money. I said, okay, here's the situation. He goes, all right, Dad, I just saw there's a bank across the street, Stockman's Bank. Go open an account there. He got some money Venmo'd and wired in, figured it out.
Yeah.
But my kids said, they said, Dad, you've always been a kind of a hard ass, ruthless, and so hard on us about things. But see, look at you. I mean, look, that's my point I'm making is I think it's all this transfer portal stuff is on the part of the parents trying to make everything right. Like I'll never forget, you go to somebody's wedding. This is my day. It's got to be perfect. Well, I got news for you. Stuff happens. Okay. Right. Split happens. Yes. And you got to learn how to react to it. I mean, the business that you and I are in addition to doing this show, stuff happens.
Yes, it does.
Broc, Rob, what'd you do? The market was down 1,200 points today. I'm like, it was? Because I'm too busy taking care of my clients.
Right.
Let's talk about that, because when I was at Christian Brothers, the brothers ran that school.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I got the slogan and the saying, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. You know the LaSallian Brothers mission. They're the best of the best. You cannot beat, no offense, but nobody educates better than the Catholics worldwide. All those great runners in Kenya go to St. Patrick's Catholic School, okay?
I did not know that.
Yes, they go to St. Patrick's Catholic School in the mountains, okay? And as one guy said, when you're out for a run, the long runs that we take, you must keep up with the group because there are lions and cheetahs and leopards. And okay, that's all I need for motivation. That's right. But let's talk about that, Broc. We've allowed this stuff, this candy ass snowflake culture, to have a voice. Man, they have no voice on this show.
Right.
But let's fix it. You're out there coaching these kids every day. You don't go any less tough on them than you were treated by your coaches, do you?
I don't treat them like my coaches do to that extent, because that may put me in jail nowadays. But yeah, I mean, again, whenever I talk about kids sports, just in general, leave it up to the adults. They're supposed to be the adults in the room, to do the right things, make those tough decisions, to one, make it better for the kids, but, again, to teach them lessons, so on and so forth. We're the ones that screw it up. The adults, leave it up to the adults to screw up kids sports. And I still hear about it. I still see it. The NIL with Tennessee. I mean, we're supposed to be adults in the room, and now we're paying high school kids. And I don't want to take anything away from kids, but it's going to end up being a madhouse. I'm watching a little bit. I've got a friend who coaches at Baylor, and I think they've brought in 6 Canadians, and I mean, there are kids jumping schools all around in Nashville. And I don't think we're probably not going to see that here in Memphis as much, but again, I mean, at the end of the day, and we don't have to be a-holes like, some of the coaches that we dealt with. Obviously, we give them water and not salt tablets. I mean, we've progressed obviously as society and just as dealing with kids, but football, it used to be people needed football. Right. Yeah. Again, it was tough. It was kind of an escape. And nowadays kids just don't need it. They still play it because they play it on Madden and they think it's cool and they go out. It's just a little bit of a different mentality, but I don't blame it on the kids at all. It's the parents, and the adults and policymakers, whatever, it's all the above. I mean, the people that are supposed to be making good decisions for the benefit of the children. It just seems that we're doing more harm than we are good. And, we should just let them be kids, let them be kids. I mean, you think about boys, especially, the way the school system is set up, and not to get on, like you said, there's a lot to unpack here. But I mean, think about you being a teenager or even a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and, school, you sit for basically 7 out of 8 hours. Yeah. I mean, you can't do that with a kid. And anyway, no. My point of that is, we just have not made a lot of progress from that standpoint. And I think we've gone backwards, and we're trying to coddle our kids too much, obviously. And again, we want them to be protected and have the right things. But, sometimes you got to push them out of the nest and they fall and, get back up, whatever it may be. But I blame the adults straight up.
I do too. And I think that when we hear about, Coach Butch Thompson, Auburn's baseball coach, is on with us a lot from mid-January every week till the end of June. And he said something about our culture in competition. He said, look, we don't fail too often in what we do because we aim too high and miss. Mm-hmm. We get in trouble because we aim too low and connect.
Right.
And you're talking about a guy from Amory, Mississippi, Butch Thompson. He goes, Rob, actually, I grew up in the suburbs. I said, Coontail, Mississippi, in a trailer. And look at Butch Thompson, the American dream. Yeah. He's just incredible. But, the thing that you learn about sports, and it's like the business that you and I are in, so many athletes thrive, Broc, in what you and I do because of competition. Mm-hmm. And I didn't play college sports. I was on the karate club for 2.5 years, but I've done 75 triathlons. I love to work out. And so competitive people are good. Mm-hmm. But I remember in kids today in coaching a lot, they don't get recess. and they're bouncing off the walls. And
Mhm.
you know, I'm
Mhm.
like JoJo the circus boy, man. I gotta have my yard time. And so they show up for practice and they've been inside all day.
Mhm.
And so what the teachers are doing in a lot of cases is take this medicine or that medicine to calm down.
Right.
That doesn't work that way.
Right.
I mean, your wife is a guidance counselor.
Mhm.
She's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. And you get this. All right. So let's switch gears. I want to talk about Ole Miss. I don't believe in putting ceilings on programs. I've seen Ole Miss the year before you got there in '92.
Mhm.
Billy Dog Brewer had brought in Cassius Ware and Dwayne Dotson, two of the greatest linebackers. They ripped Auburn, put 45 on us that night. And you think about this program. Lane Kiffin got the 10 wins a couple of years ago. And then it's announced Jeff Lebby's going to leave to go to Oklahoma. And that killed Ole Miss against Baylor. Ron Roberts and the creeper defense. Ole Miss didn't produce that night. But I look at this program. Yancey Porter's on with us every week talking about Ole Miss. Knows that program well. But why do people allow themselves to buy into that narrative? Because the players certainly don't, do they? At any school, let's focus, though, on Ole Miss.
As far as kind of, we're happy with 7-8 wins. Or,
because my friends used to tell me that. And I'd say, y'all are crazy. I said, you should expect to win every game. Because he said, y'all at Auburn and Alabama, y'all are cannibals. And my wife even says, after a game in Auburn, y'all are mad when the other team gets the ball.
Mm-hmm. And I said, it's funny because I remember when I came down as a freshman, I came from a successful high school program. And again, it was just one of those things that we need to teach kids is about competing. Again, you're not going to win every game, but being a competitor in everything you do and expecting to win, right? Regardless. I mean, if you go out against the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys or Charlie Browne, I mean, it doesn't matter. You always want to have that expectation that you're going to win, right? Because if you don't, you're defeated before you get on the field. And I think at Ole Miss, and there was that when I was there, and I even commented to my wife and even friends, I said, I'm so tired of people coming up to us and say, you almost beat Alabama. Y'all played great. It was awesome. And I said, it's still a loss. I mean, this and that and everything else. But at the end of the day, Alabama went home with a W and we went home with a loss. So I don't care how great we played. And again, that's, I don't know, you kind of end up settling to an extent. Heck, I'm a Cubs fan. I mean, I'm happy when they win 70 games in a year. But, as it relates to Ole Miss, I think our expectations have definitely been raised. And I think Tuberville had a lot to do with that when he first came in. I mean, and the program was a bit in shambles at that time. But then, he came in and massive competitor. And then he did it with Auburn. And then the guys that followed, Cutcliffe and Freeze and now Kiffin. And I think, Kiffin understands that. He's been at programs that are top tier. And you want to bring that mentality. But, I think some of it obviously has to start on the field, of course, with coaches and players. Those expectations have to be high. Hey, I win the SEC. And people may laugh at you, but, let them laugh because that needs to be your expectation. That needs to be your goal. Yeah. And but from a fan standpoint too, now, we don't need rabid, silly, acting fans. Oh, we didn't, win the national championship this year, but, let's fire the coach. That's for Alabama. But we do need those expectations that, hey, we need to beat Alabama. We need to beat the Auburns and the LSUs and those things like that. And obviously take care of those teams that we should beat, but win the big games. And until you start to do that, you're not going to get to that upper echelon, right? And we're there. We have the capacity, the potential, to do that. I think we do have the coach to do that. It's just, I think from the mental aspect of it, you got to believe it. You really have to believe it, not just from, player and coaches, but also, fan base to get that atmosphere and energy around it. Well, we're there, we're close, but we're not there yet.
Well, and again, I've been to 52 games at the Vault. I've been to a lot of games down there. Spent a lot of time in the Grove. Got a lot of Ole Miss friends, and I noticed that. I love what you said. That's why you like to bring people like you into a program because you're driven. You'll find excuses to win. And that's what you do. And I look at Kiffin, and he is so confident in his abilities that he comes across as maybe dismissive or cocky, whatever. Good. I want cocky. I want a guy that's confident, you know? And I know when we bring on different athletes, coaches, the ones that are successful, our next guest, I mean, good Lord, she was part of Alabama Gymnastics for 30 years, won national championships, got an MBA, and now she's working for a Fortune 500 company. It doesn't matter what the sport is.
That's awesome.
You got to have a culture. You know what I'm saying? Of people around you. So you look at Ole Miss going into this year, and I want to get your thoughts. We got a few more minutes. The belief last year, Ole Miss gets off to a great start, and you said the schedule's back end loaded. You know, and it's human nature. Some games you're going to be a little more intense than others, but with the portal and the way it is now, everybody's got a few players, and if you're not on your game, you can get in trouble quickly. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and I mean, playing Jacksonville State versus playing, Auburn that next week. I mean, naturally you're going to be thinking about that, but I guess one of those things, and most of these kids are that way, is, I mean, you're a competitor, so you're playing that game, that is right then and there. And again, the crowd's not as loud, the atmosphere and so on and so forth. But, when you step on the field, you're still playing and you're fired up and everything else. But, this schedule's a little different than last year for Ole Miss. I mean, I agree that, yes, we had that nice first 6, 7 games, and then we turned into murderer's row. But, sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, whatever it may be. It is what it is. But ultimately, as a competitor, I mean, you're playing the game regardless of who's on the other side. I mean, that's kind of the same thing as my expectations. I'm going to beat anybody who steps on that field. That doesn't change, when it's Wofford or it's Alabama. I mean, obviously, you're probably more confident with Wofford, but it'll be an interesting year. My son and I were talking about it last night, and there's a fine line there where you can see, hey, that 8-4. We get some really good key victories, call it 9-3, 10-2, but you also see potentially 6-6. I mean, just with that, we get Georgia at Athens. Yeah. And so, I mean, in Auburn, Alabama, I guess, no, Auburn's at home, and then Alabama's at Tuscaloosa. So,
Auburn's on the road this year. You do go to Auburn. You go on the road to Auburn this year.
Yeah.
And to Georgia. So it's but you know what I think also Auburn and Kiffin, if whatever conversations there were, that's got to be distracting.
Oh, yeah.
And that, so I don't think that helped. But I told him afterwards, I just said, Coach, I'm glad you stayed at Ole Miss, because when Auburn took Tuberville, I wouldn't want that to happen to my school.
Right.
And I want to see Ole Miss. I want to see everybody in the SEC succeed. My deal is this. All I ask is that Auburn win every game. I don't ask for anything else. And I want to beat you. I don't hate any school. I love my school, but I love all the schools in this conference.
Sure.
And what I love is the people. It's the people that make it possible. And, you look at Ole Miss right now. Look at that quarterback room. Walker Howard's in the wings. He's a 5-star out of Lafayette. Jamie, his dad, played at, LSU. Hell, Spencer Sanders comes over from Oklahoma. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I mean,
I recognize that name.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got Jackson Dart. And Lane Kiffin, think about what he did at Alabama. 14 with Blake Sims, a guy that had been a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, an analyst, and then he came back to quarterback, gets him to the playoffs. 15, Jacob Coker, back up to Jameis Winston. He knows how to get crab legs. So then in 2016, Jalen Hurts comes in there. Okay. With 3 different quarterbacks, he wins the SEC and goes to the playoffs. Yeah. There's a lot to be said about that. And
there is.
I just want your thoughts before you go about the quarterback situation. And you played when Spikes was at Auburn. He was pretty good. I saw him last week, 22-inch neck. It's the only person I know with a 22-inch neck. He's a sharp guy. Both of y'all. That's
what a real linebacker looks like.
Well, you got those Popeye forearms, trust me.
And a 12-inch neck.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, as far as I mean, the QB room at Ole Miss, I mean, that may be the best we've ever had.
It's incredible.
And again, Spencer Sanders coming over from Oklahoma State. I think I've watched him for the last 8 years or however long he's playing. I mean, it seems like a decade he's been playing, but it's great he's here. I think it's, in lanes, you kind of think about it. You're like, look, you got Dart. Why do you need to bring in another guy like that? Well, it's a competition thing. We were just talking about it. I mean, you bring a guy that needs to push your guy. And if your guy isn't Jackson Dart and Jackson Dart doesn't step up, well, the guy you brought in just pushed him and now he's a starter. So, I mean, I love that he does that. I think it's, he gets a lot of, I don't know, people confused a little bit. Why are we doing that and this and everything else? But you are pushing. And I mean, he's being pushed. Jackson Dart's being pushed from the bottom,
Yeah.
Walker Howard. I mean,
yeah.
From what I understand is the real deal. And
Yeah.
so anyway,
Yeah.
But I think he's done a fantastic job with the quarterback room and all of it to that extent. And it's going to be exciting to watch, especially we may have one of the best in the country.
Yeah, I agree. And you get a great quarterback going, anything can happen. I mean, and competition on any level is all about people. And you want those people around you that are willing to go that extra 6 inches and crawl through glass to win. And finding excuses to win. And then, Brock, we got to get you back on next week. We're going to bring you on one of the round tables with some of the folks that we do on here. But competition, man, it's the spice of life. You and that bell goes
Absolutely,
off every
buddy.
morning at 8:30 a.m. during the show. The market opens. I'm watching a lot of things. I love it. The pride of Naperville, Illinois. And what do you call a cold beer up there?
Road soda, baby.
Damn right. Ham's beer at best. Hey, we'll talk to you next week, Broc Krietz. When do the brothers play their first game?
We scrimmage tonight, actually, Henry County and Bartlett at the brothers. And then our first game, I believe, is August 18th. And right. I believe it's White Station.
All right. That'll be a fun one. Yep. All right. Take care, Brock. Have a great day.
Thanks, buddy.
You bet. All right. That is Broc Krietz, former linebacker at Ole Miss. Famous Dana Duckworth for when he played at Ole Miss. It was Tommy Tuberville's second year. Oh, no, we lost. But he was famous for running down Hines Ward in the open field. But anyway, lot to talk about in the world of college football, and it's just the competition part of it. The competition part of it is it doesn't matter what the sport is. It's all competition is the best thing we got going. And Dana, Waller and Sue, can you hear anything? You may have us on mute. Check your mute button. And I like competition at any level. And one thing we're seeing is with the growth of gymnastics and all sports like gymnastics.
I can't hear anything.
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, check your mute button. Can you check your mute button? Okay, just see if you can do that. We'll work. Okay, we'll work on that. Yeah. It could be. Can you check your mute button, Dana? Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we you want to take a commercial break here real quick? We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Dana Duckworth after this quick message on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with Dana Duckworth. And Dana, technical difficulties. Power went out at the house this morning, so we ran over here to Red River Ford Toyota, emergency contingency plans, and different studio than we normally are in. But look, glad to have you on here. And you heard that conversation with Broc. Broc and I started working together back in 2001. He played linebacker 5 years at Ole Miss, started 3 years, and he's now involved in, and we're both financial advisors in addition to doing this show. He's involved in, working with high school football with his son at Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. You're with a sport, gymnastics. I know you stepped down last year and you're in private sector business like I am, but the growth of gymnastics, it's just unbelievable. Sarah Patterson, you've been a part of that program since the early 90s. You've won national championships. You came down here from Michigan. And you took advantage of being at Alabama. Hell, you got an MBA from, the Alabama School of Commerce. That ain't easy. That's like swimming the English Channel. Okay. That's impressive. You've taken that. You did 8 years as a head coach at gymnastics, but you can't turn on TV now. I mean, gymnastics is outdrawing men's basketball at a lot of places. I'm an Auburn grad, Waller and Susan told me about you and they love you. They're listening right now. But everywhere you go, gymnastics is big and it's teaching there's no way to make it easy, but how did all this happen and the growth of a sport like gymnastics? Because we have a lot of listeners and viewers that have daughters and that are, hey, I want to get into gymnastics. It's a hell of a commitment. I don't know of anything that requires more of a commitment in sports.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Susan, Waller, y'all the bomb. We're going to miss you in Tuscaloosa. But isn't it amazing that college gymnastics is relevant? And I think that's the key word here, is that everything that was started back in the early 70s and 80s, was the opportunity for women in sports when Title IX started to unfold. And we're always about opportunities for women. And when you look at the sport of gymnastics, I would argue that pound for pound, these are some of the most athletic young women you have ever witnessed, because gymnastics is everything from a place of strength, speed, power, flexibility, grace, artistry. I mean, you have to be a rock star athlete. Oh, and let's be pretty while we do it as well. And so there's such a uniqueness to the sport. It is a sport that you can't just pick up when you're 16 years old. It's something where you start at 2, 3, 4 years old, and there's so many steps to the development piece. And so you have lots of questions in there, right? So first of all, why gymnastics? Why college gymnastics? Well, the evolution of gymnastics is that I'll never forget back in 1990 when we had the black curtain up inside Coleman Coliseum to make everyone sit in one little part of the bowl so that it looked more full. And after 1990, that was my freshman year, in 1991, the curtain came down and the lower bowl was completely filled. And then a few years later, now you're up to the next tier. And between Utah, Georgia, Alabama, those three programs in particular, they grew the relevance and the fan and experience because it was no longer a gymnastics meet. It was an event. And so take that many, many years later, it's like you took an event and put it on steroids between the sponsorships and the events, throwing the t-shirts, getting the kids involved, the Jumbotron, I mean, all of that. And then let's talk about 2015 when the SEC Nation started Friday Night Heights.
Yeah.
And Friday Night Heights, right? Friday Night Heights was a game changer. This little old sport, I'll never forget this. So we were at an SEC head coaches meeting. ESPN comes in and literally was like, we don't know if it's going to work, and it did. And not only did it, it set a precedent for what amazing looks like. And even in other areas, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, like their coverage, I would argue, still isn't as superb as the SEC conference and how the ESPN is capturing college gymnastics. So it's a long answer to a question of how did it get there? Well, it was your legends of the Greg Marsdens, the Suzanne Yochlins, the Sarah Pattersons that built the relevance back in the day. And they didn't necessarily get to see the fruits of their labor as far as being on television. And then that next tier of people, I got to be one of those. And I never took it for granted. And it was always an honor to be able to, one, represent your university on the national stage, but two, be able to know that you were part of something that wouldn't have happened with the people if the people hadn't sacrificed what they did back in the day. But it's your job now to make it even better and rise above it. And that's what's happening. Yeah.
Well, you think about gymnastics globally. We all remember growing up, in the Olympics, it would be the big stage. And we'd watch a gymnast do the routine. And then we would have to look for the East German judges give a 10, the Russians a 10, and the Americans might give an 8. It was so, that's where we were all introduced. Nadia Comaneci and so many great ones, Mary Lou Retton. It became such a sport. And I've known friends who've had daughters that did gymnastics and all in Palm or whatever. But the strength, I mean, the confidence. I got to say, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I can run 20 miles. I can do all that stuff, but getting on a balance beam and flipping and doing all that, how in the world do you get somebody and say, this is, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do this. But to me, teaching is submitting to the mentor and saying, all right, I trust you.
It's all about development. It's all about starting in a program that's going to build and create that foundation and baseline of basic gymnastics. And we're talking about how to just your posture, how to carry yourself, how to walk on the beam, how to run on the beam, how to do a handstand on the beam. It's it's definitely you can't run before you crawl and you walk. And so that's the beautiful piece. Now, from a technical perspective, some people may not really find this relevant, but if you have great basics and foundation, and that's basically doing the core of gymnastics is the handstand, right? Having a good position, having the core strength, having all that. Every single thing you do in gymnastics is a handstand. And so if that's developed really well, and then the mindset's developed and matured, then the more difficult gymnastics isn't as hard as it looks. But if you don't have good technique, it makes it difficult to do those things. Yeah. And every gymnast is designed differently, right? Look at Simone Biles. I mean, she's short and she's compact. And then you look at the tall gymnast and their look and their elegance is a different type of gymnastics. But of course, it's a subjective sport. So, the judging piece is always a little tricky. And a fan that doesn't really know the technical part of gymnastics, but loves to watch it, will see something and say to me, Coach, why was that a 10? And it's hard for the person that doesn't understand the sport to see why there may have been deductions. And so the educational part of learning why is a routine crafted the way it's crafted, well, it's based on the rules and regulations that the administration, the associations put in play.
Yeah.
And then how you execute and how you design a routine builds that routine. Because in college, I'm so happy the 10-0 is still the base of what the sport is about. Because when you get into the elite program and it's all about difficulty and execution and you're getting a 15.2, you talk about difficult to understand. Hence why I think men's gymnastics collegiately, because they use that scoring system, it's difficult for the fans to understand it.
They don't use the 10?
No, they use a different scoring system. So that changes the dynamic. And at the end of the day, if you are a spectator, you can't not appreciate the athleticism. If you're sitting in the stands and you're saying this person is flipping multiple times on a 4-inch wide beam that's 4 feet off the ground, 16 feet wide, long, and 4 inches, and put your handout like that, right? It's about for it, and that's what you're doing it on. And then of course uneven bars, and it's the swing and the rhythm, and it's just really intricate. But if you've done it your whole life, then it's not as scary.
Yeah.
And so, with the relevance of it, and now NIL and these athletes being able to brand themselves and make money off the sport in the college realm, even in the high school realm, depending on your followers and what have you, there's a lot of positives going on. And again, anything we can do to promote women with the opportunity for growth, for opportunity to compete, all those skill sets, 1,000%, I would argue this to the day I'm not here anymore, transfers into you being a great whatever's next, whether it's a corporate woman, a VP, the stay-at-home mom, a surgeon, those characteristics, the focus, the attention to detail, the discipline, the mental toughness, the ability to overcome, the resilience. I mean, I could talk about that stuff all day. Hence why the transition back into corporate America has been a beautiful thing. I love coaching. The hardest part of not coaching are missing the athletes that I recruited and the families that became a part of your soul. Mm-hmm. That is the hardest part of not coaching anymore. But, coaching shows up in a lot of different ways. And so I started this coachdx3.com. You can go on there and check it out. But it's just a website where I can be a coach still. I can maybe coach young women or young professionals that are seeking to move up in the world, have challenges, a little bit of life coaching, a little bit of corporate professional coaching. And then I have been given the opportunity to do things like this and go speak, because it's not just my journey. I wouldn't be in the position I am today if it wasn't for the people that give me the opportunity. Yeah. At the same time, it's allowed me to expand that skill set in multiple channels of my life. And I hope to be an example to others that's an opportunity for you. Whether you're a coach full time and that's where you stay your whole career, or you coach for a little while and you get into business and you have the next chapter of your life to do different things. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love the fact that you talked about it. Sports teach you the lessons of life. I mean, you've got to learn to work around obstacles. I mean, stuff's going to happen. Volunteer coaching for 14 years, track and field and cross country. My kids, and another 5 years after they were gone, about 600 kids probably over the years. And you see them now as they grow up in their careers, and I used to always say, and I still do say, if you quit out here because this is too tough, you're going to quit every damn thing in life that's too tough. So you better decide right now. You've got about 5 seconds to decide what the rest of your life is going to look like. You may not agree with me now, but I'm telling you. And about teamwork, you got 5 people on a cross country team, top 5. The lowest score wins. A 15's a perfect score. We always tell these people, look, our number 1 runner could go down with a sprained ankle. Number 3 could be out with strep throat. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, develop depth, build team camaraderie. So we would run the JV or the B team in a lot of the A team meets because we were so damn good. And we told those kids, we would catch them all. We would say, hey, y'all are running in 2 days. They're going, we're running in the A team. I go, you're part of this team, aren't you? They go, yes, sir. So you're running in it. You prepare people for those moments. And that's what I love. And you look at these gymnasts, my God, what they go, the training. And Jeff Graba is the coach down at Auburn now. And I'm getting people are asking me now, ask Dana if she knows who Lynette Calvin was, kind of the founder of girls gymnastics in Alabama high schools. She was in Sylacauga for many years. Husband Tom played at Alabama and the Steelers. Did you know her?
Did not know her, but she's a legend. And she brought an amazing amount of opportunity and gymnastics to the forefront in the state of Alabama. So you talk about a name that is recognized. Absolutely. And, how many years ago was that, Rob? It was a long time ago. Yeah. Again, she set the foundation. And that foundation was set to give more coaches and more student athletes a chance to do college gymnastics, to do gymnastics And, you know, when you were talking about the track and field piece and having those athletes that were right on the brink of making it into the lineup, that's the same thing in gymnastics. So you've got anywhere between 16 to 25 on a gymnastics team in college.
Okay.
And you have 4 events and you have 6 athletes that get to compete. And they count the top 5 scores, drop 1 score. So in our association meetings, many times it was talking about how do we make and create more parity? Let's go 6 up, 6 count. Well, let me tell you why I wasn't in favor of that.
Yeah.
The score of 200 as a team is perfection. Okay. The score on an event, 50, would be all 5 athletes getting a 10. Mm-hmm. There is that 10.0 and there is that historical data set on the, you know, the records that have been done and created. And those mean something. And what I love is that there's no doubt, just like golf, maybe even tennis, gymnastics in college, it's a team sport with individual moments. And every individual has to do their part. But I will tell you that the person that's in the lineup, that's 7, 8, 9, they are so equally as important as 1 through 6. Yeah. Because at any point, somebody could get hurt. At any point, one of your athletes could wake up sick and have the flu. Right. I mean, through COVID, who knew what was going to happen? I mean, you know, leading a team through a global pandemic. Wow. I'm going to write a book about that. It was like, whoa. But my point is that that's what I love about being a part of a team, is that whether you get the opportunity to be under the spotlight, under the big lights, or you're right there on the brink, the life skills you're developing of being prepared when the opportunity presents itself, so that if the opportunity presents itself, you don't miss out on that chance. Yeah. The hardship of not making the lineup and how that gets your heart. As a coach, you want that kid, that young woman that has worked so hard to have that door open for them. And then, of course, you see the wonderful stories that are shared on social media and 30 on 30 of the student athlete, no matter what sport it is, they walked on. They walked on, and I hate the name walk on because it sounds like it's not as important as the people that have scholarships. It's not the case. I mean, the experience to be a part of a team, whether you are voluntarily paying for it or you have a full scholarship, that you get the same clothes, you get the same opportunity to travel, you get the same tutors. I mean, all those things are really important. But it's so extensively inspirational when you have an athlete that volunteered to be on your team, walked on, had those hardships, and then they get the opportunity, one, to compete, or if they earn a scholarship. Yeah. I mean, that tugs at your heart. Doesn't matter what kind of coach, what kind of team. Yeah. That's something very special. And that gives others hope. And I love that people have hope. Yeah.
Well, you think about it back in when Coach Bryant was there, and Sam Bailey really ran the athletic department. And my dad did some work with them in the mid-'70s, the tennis center, and he built the Sam Bailey track and field complex. And I've been to Tuscaloosa a few times, and I'm an Auburn grad, so, just so you'll know. But
I think you might be.
and I remarried, and I married a Vol for life. It's crazy. And her cousin Mark has the biggest tailgate up on the hill with about 300 people. And so, and my oldest daughter, now that I've got a 4th now, is an Alabama graduate. So she graduated in May of 2011. Now, you know, she was there when the tornado hit, and Audrey went over. They lived in Atlanta at the time the next day, but she ended up walking the plank in August. But I've got a lot of friends that went to Alabama. I mean, my closest friend from birth was an SAE there. I know Tuscaloosa pretty well. But I'll tell you what, I hate that you're not coaching still, because you're so damn good. Because what you say resonates so far and wide about working your ass off and competition and fighting and never giving up. And like I said, I got, you know, Hallie and Mallory are alpha females. I'm telling you, my daughter does a lot of life coaching. She does retreats. She's very driven. She did 34 pull-ups in the fitness test in 2 minutes. The closest boy did 13. So very competitive. I think it's and you know what? John Hartwell, our friend who's on the show every week, the AD at ULM, was up in Chicago this week, missed yesterday. It was at Wrigley Field late into the night yesterday morning. He said on the show a couple of weeks ago, and look, 97.3% of the money for NIL is going toward men. And, look, I want everybody to succeed on their own merits. There's no quotas, there's no gimmies, but you think about, you hire a young lady that went through your program for 4 or 5 years, even if they never scored in a meet, the fact that they participated in that, showed up, found excuses to win, and got there every day at practice and said, Coach, what can I do to help? And they go through that. They graduate. They get their degree. They got that A on the wall, hired on the spot. Because you know what? They can take it. They can get punched in the gut and go, thank you, sir. May I have another? I'll take that any day. That's what coaching, and that's what great coaches like you bring to the table. You were part of a legacy. You built it. You coached there for 30 plus years. I still go back. You got a damn MBA in the middle of all that. That's pretty impressive.
I have been blessed because I've had a team of people surrounding me to help me be successful. And I'll never take full credit. My faith is strong. The friendships are strong. The relationships are important. And, it's all about who you know, and it's about who you surround yourself around. And I tell people all the time is surround yourself around people that celebrate you and the energy you bring. And when you have those types of support systems, then the sky's the limit, and you got to put in the hard work. And, one thing you mentioned earlier about not quitting, one of the deals my husband and I have made with our 2 children who all went through sports, a variety of sports, is once you start something, you're going to finish, whether it's, the season, the travel ball, whatever, you're going to finish it because you're not wrong. When you start to give up and quit in one realm, many times you'll start to do that in others, and you'll continue to find reasons and whys. Doesn't mean you don't change paths. That's different, right? Because every chapter of your life prepares you for the next chapter. And then the key is it's your personal responsibility of what you do with it and how you respond to it. The adversity, how do you respond to it? There isn't a book written out, and I love reading. You can see my books behind me. I love reading. I love hearing people's stories and their paths to success. Many, many people fell on their face. Many people failed, and that's how they became better. And so it's an exciting time to be in college athletics. It's an honor to coach. I wish more athletes understood how much a coach thinks about them, how much it's a 24/7 job. They never shut it off. We never shut it off because we care about the human being. We're trying to make them the best athlete, but we're also trying to make them the best person they can possibly be. And so your mind is always, in connection with your student athletes. But athletes are amazing hires. People will hire athletes because they know how to overcome adversity. They know when you're on a team, it isn't about me, it's about us. That's right. It's about a we mentality, not a me mentality. But there's also an element when you're competitive. Like I'm so self-competitive. I've got some goals set at the company I'm working for, and I've got this one little struggle bus piece, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to overcome it so bad because that's like winning a national championship. So I love the relevance. I love how it transfers, and it's a beautiful thing to be a competitive athlete and a competitive person. And we shouldn't apologize for being competitive.
Yeah, no, I've been told by some smart people that you're shrinking to make other people around you feel less insecure, and less uncomfortable is a disservice to everyone. And I remember my dad as a small boy said, if you meet someone like Fred Smith, the founder and the CEO of FedEx, who got a C+ on that term paper he wrote about how to start the company, when you shake hands with someone like that, it's like hooking up to a generator. They exude confidence. I'm putting you in that category, Dana. Hell, you could get me excited to walk to my own execution. I mean, I don't want to, but no wonder you were successful. And that's why the transition is relatively easy. But you're right. The impact that you have. I remember one time watching the 100-year anniversary of college football at Auburn. And Vince Dooley, former Georgia coach, was saying, Coach Jordan always told us, be careful of the words you use because they have an impact, whether they're positive or negative, have a profound impact. And we look at coaches, and I saw this at Fort Benning when I covered Fort Benning as my beat, the Ranger instructors. I said, it ain't like TV. We don't say that much to them. We save those yelling and hollering experiences for the rare occasions when we need them. But you as a coach impacted a lot of people's lives, still do, and you're giving people a platform to launch their lives from. You got to come back on here again with us soon. And as we get into gymnastics, I'd like you, when you can, to come on to start explaining it to us what's going on. I grew up, I love tennis. We need American tennis. We hadn't had an American win a world major in 20 years. Gymnastics. Suni Lee gets a gold. She goes to Auburn for 2 years. Now she's going back to get ready for the Olympics. You've got Olympic athletes. I would love to get you on here to talk about that and tell people how they can reach out to you, connect with you, and follow what you're doing, because we need people like you who are the alphas of the world. We don't need more betas. We need people like you that are strong, that have a message, and have strong convictions and live what you coach. I love it.
Thank you, Rob. That means the world to me. And again, like I said, I didn't get here on my own. I've been surrounded by an unbelievable amount of support, and that's what I want to be to the next generation. And so I just was celebrating one of our former athletes, our former athletes, just became an assistant coach at NC State. You've got Asia Sims starting the second HBCU program in the entire country, and she was an Alabama gymnast. You've got athletes that are, awesome. You've got the new head coach of Alabama, former gymnast. You've got an assistant coach in Minnesota. So seeing those girls and women have the opportunity to take what they love, their passion, and what they learned through the sport is so beautiful and so gratifying to know that when I'm not here one day, that the legacy lives within them. And that is an honor. So I would be happy to do that when season starts. It's in my blood. My mama was a gymnastics judge and coach. I literally came out of the womb loving gymnastics, but I also love that I am a corporate woman and I have an opportunity to pour into others, have confidence, own your voice, and by golly, have a strong handshake. But we'll talk about that later.
No, look, no dead fish handshakes with me. That's automatic blackball. You got to do it. But again, how can people follow you on social media, keep up with what you're doing, and we'll let you go?
So I'm focused on Instagram and Facebook. I have I'm not big on Twitter. It's Coach Dana Duckworth. So just Coach Dana Duckworth is my Instagram. And then you can send anything to info@coachdx3.com. Info@coachdx3. So I'm Dana Dobransky Duckworth. That's where the Coach DX3 comes in. Gotcha. I put lots up on Instagram, and then Facebook, I'm Dana Dobransky Duckworth. So easy peasy. Thank you for having me, Rob, and have a great weekend.
Hey, we will, man. Loved having you on here. Thanks a lot. That is Dana Duckworth, former gymnastics coach at Alabama. What a message. You talk about positive, upbeat, driven. Bo Carter joins us now from the Metroplex. Life, teammates for life. Did you write that?
No, Jeff Miller, about your favorite coach.
Oh, yeah, about the team. That's like the 1972, the Amazons.
You got to get him in there one time. I tell you.
Yeah.
You love it, Rob.
I do. I think I've reached out to him. I hope I had the right number, but I definitely want to get Jeff Miller on. The 1972 Auburn team picked 9th out of 10 teams by the SEC Skyriders. And those guys, I don't know if they were drinking when they did that or not, but Terry Beasley had gone and Pat Sullivan was gone. Auburn goes 10-1 that next year. I've got to read that book. Again, you being a great writer, sports information director, teammates for life, 72. There was Terry Henley, and there were so many great players that became great players on that team, not because of their stats, but because of their toughness.
The Newton twins, all that group.
From
David Langner.
From Fayette, Alabama. Yeah. David Langner, buddy of mine, told me, he said, Browne, he said he rode into town on a motorcycle. He was about 5'9", 173 pounds. Said he was the toughest SOB on campus. He said, and a friend of mine walked on from John Carroll High School, Joe Passantino, and he said, I got hit by him one day in practice because I had second thoughts about football, but tough as nails. And he, unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
He was living in Tuscaloosa, working at a car dealership. And you think about this, Bo, all these people that came before us, like Dana Duckworth, she was on the Sarah Patterson at Alabama, won national championships. And then she takes over and coaches for 8 years. And the impact that you have in your teammates, that's what is the coolest part about all of this. You mentioned when Johnny Cooks passed away a couple of weeks ago, great player at Mississippi State, but from what you and other people have said, just an incredible person. And there's a life to him off the field. And, you as an SID, you weren't about censorship. You were about protecting them from getting, in trouble and saying things and just be careful. Cause I know sometimes in the heat of the moment, we can say some things, but you look at where we are now. And do we need to take a commercial break, Mildred? Well, Paul want to say hello to while he's going to say hello there to Susan and Tate and Signe that are listening on the color television. We're going to take a quick commercial break, though. We've got Mildred at the beach in a two-piece coming back right after this on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Dad. I kind of want something other good to eat in there. Reckon you got anything good to eat in there? What you got to eat? Well, we got the Mongo burger, the chili dog, the cheeseburger. We got Frosty burger. We got French fries. French fried potatoes. French fries. How much you want for them? Large is $79. Medium $79. Large is $1.29. I reckon I'll have me some of the big ones. So, do we not have the greatest listeners and viewers in the world? We're talking about David Langner's motorcycle. How about this one from a listener down in Fort Lauderdale? David Langner's motorcycle was a 1972 Suzuki 750 water-cooled engine. I used to go to Sewell Hall and just sit on it for hours as a young lad. You can't beat that. And, I mean, I guess you were a kid. David Langner didn't get mad, but man, he was. You know who he reminded me of? He was so tough. You remember the popular movie in the 70s, Billy Jack? Tom Laughlin.
I'm trying. Yeah, Tom
Laughlin,
if
we ever did a movie about David Langner, and I think Tom Laughlin is now upstairs in heaven, but I would get Tom Laughlin to play David Langner. That's how tough that guy was. And love him. But got to talk now. There's a lot happening in the world that we love of college, football right now. And I want to say hello to Tate and Signe Davis listening down there with Susan May at their new home on the plains in, as the Yankees call it, Auburn, or some people call it Auburn.
Auburn.
Or Auburn. That's another one. People call it Auburn. But anyway, they are down there listening. Thank you so much for listening and watching on the Color TV. But, Bo, a lot's happening. now we're having news that Colorado, or as some of those guys on TV call it, Colorado. It's Colorado. But the Buffaloes are coming back to the Big 12. Now, I think they left originally because they got tired of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got mad. They got tired of them. And now they're coming back to the Big 12. I think Utah's next, and maybe Arizona State and Arizona. How much more? You've worked in the Big 12 office. You worked in the Southwest Conference office. Hell, you've worked everywhere. No, but you've got such experiences. But let's talk about that. I'm on my first cup of coffee.
No, we killed off the Southwest Conference, Rob, after Arkansas left in '91.
Yeah,
unfortunately, after 82 years, great conference. Everybody loved it. But no, I could see the three, the corner states up there, the four corners coming in. The Big 12 commissioner Brett Yormark's a former NASCAR guy, NBA, and he's very nationally brand oriented or whatever. And they would and I don't know. The Pac-12 still hasn't signed its media rights agreement, which is really that thing's up in the air. And I think, and I also read something that Colorado's going to be guaranteed to get Big 12 money on that. So that, they're going to take the money and run it. Looks like, and plus it's a good one for them. You've got BYU's out there, and you've got a lot of natural right. Oklahoma State, the old Big 8 teams and Big 12 teams will fit right in there with them.
Dr. Pepper excited about BYU and the Mormons coming into the league, 15 million Dr. Pepper drinkers. But look, how soon will Colorado be joining the Big 12?
2024. They're ready to. They don't have the.
They're ready to get us out of here.
No, but Rob, you made the good point. The Longhorn Network really split the conference up. And I don't know. Bless heart, Kevin Weiberg and Dan Beebe were the two commissioners during that time, and they, what could they do? Texas and Oklahoma were the big power brokers in the Big 12, and now they're leaving. So we were saying it's going to be interesting to see they've already had meetings. It's going to be interesting to see when Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Oklahoma butt heads in some of these SEC president AD meetings. So get ready for some fireworks, I promise.
Well, we've already talked about it. Franz Beard's going to join us in about 15 minutes. He's written a lot of really good stuff, GatorbaitMedia.com this week, and I want to get him on with us in this discussion because you and Franz, both of y'all are smart. You know a lot about what's going on. And you think about this, and Buddy Martin said, we got to watch out for Texas trying to hijack the SEC. Media days next year. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be out in Dallas at the Omni Hotel. And
we'll see you.
So, and we remember that I always talk the Beverly Hillbillies episode when Uncle Jed ran for mayor and Jethro has the plane flying around town with a long banner, says Jethro Bodine with his picture, says vote for Jed Clampett. And it's Jed Clampett in the bottom right-hand corner. Texas welcomes the other SEC schools in fine print, like the bottom of an insurance contract. It's going to be, look, there's always going to be ego, but is it like that? I got a lot of Texas friends, and Ken Capps, I guess his phone died, or he's got a cricket phone and he ran out of minutes. But I was trying to see if he could be on the show today, but never heard back from him. But I know he went to New York after media days. And it's probably the calm before the storm because practice starts next week, and he works like a dozen Mennonite farmers as we all do. But Bo, I think about this story coming out about Colorado bouncing, and what do you think Oregon and Washington are going to do? Are these rumors of them joining the MAC true? The Big Ten. Are they going to go?
There's a possibility, like you were saying. And Rob, we talked about this. If the Big 12 gets those 14, the other three, four corner states, you've got the 16. You're almost about to get the perfect storm of the 4 16-team FBS conferences, and then segueing into the college football playoff, you've got the first and runner-up teams. Each one of those is 8 teams, and then 4 whatever left, I guess. So it's they've been talking about that. Jackie Sherrill and several people have talked about it since the 90s or whatever. So it's they're and ESPN and the television networks love it because they can promo the heck out of stuff.
Well, we need to save college football nationally. Look, I'm partial, obviously, to my Southeastern Conference schools, but I live in Memphis. I want to see University of Memphis get in a conference. I mean, who knows? FedEx, we're going to build a hub in Oklahoma City. Will that get us in? Who knows what? I'm just throwing things out there.
Yeah.
But the city of Memphis is starved for something like that. I mean, you get the Grizzlies rolling, and John Morant has to act like a 2-year-old. And, I don't know what's going to happen with him. He's going to be out 25 games this year, and that's going to cost him. But I love the Grizzlies. I love everything about Memphis. I want to see that city get, look, Houston, Memphis outdraws Houston, and Houston's 4 or 5 times bigger.
Yep.
People in Houston don't know where the University of Houston is.
That's right.
University of Central Florida, you got Gus down there, Mr. Sweater Vest. He's got them in that league. Cincinnati. Man, you know what Cincinnati is? That's where all the great coaches from Eastern Michigan went, or Central Michigan.
That's right.
Brian Kelly, wasn't Eddie Munster all grown up? I mean, Butch Jones, he coached at Cincinnati briefly, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did before going to Tennessee. You're right. It's kind of remember Miami of Ohio used to be the cradle of coaches.
Well, it always will be.
Yeah, they really, remember from Bo Schembechler and those
Ara
guys.
Parsegan,
and it's they played it. But no, you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be very interesting. And the 3 we were talking about, it was an American Athletic Conference media days. Their teams have been in the Cotton Bowl 3 of the last. Memphis, great team in 2019. Cincinnati in the college football playoff 2 years, and then Tulane's big win. They were the whole theme of the thing was Tulane's win over USC last year. There, you could look out the window at the hotel and see the AT&T Stadium there. So
Mike Orasco, the commissioner of the AAC?
Yes. In fact, he helped.
You bring him on the show with you sometime. I would love to talk to that guy because I don't want to see. That's again. I'm not trying to poach, destroy conferences. I'm just kind of trying to be Wayne Gretzky. You're the greatest hockey player of all time, Wayne, but you're not the biggest or the fastest or anything. What makes you number one? Well, I don't go where the puck is. I go where I think the puck's going.
That's right.
So I'm trying to go where I think it's happening. But Mike Orasco, Conference USA, Sunbelt had their media days this past week. We want football to be good everywhere. We're all partial to our school, but I don't want to just have the same 7 or 8 teams every year.
That's right. Yeah,
look what happened to Major League Baseball when they changed some rules. Everybody used to say, well, the media, the TV people used to tell us, everybody in the country wants to watch the Yankees and the Dodgers. Okay. I mean, everybody does. Like, really? People in St. Louis, Atlanta, Tampa? I don't think so. When was the last time the Yankees won a World Series? Have they won one in this millennium?
That's right.
I don't think so.
That's right.
Is there a better baseball organization in America today than the Atlanta Braves and Alex Anthopoulos? I mean, nobody's married the culture of the Southeastern college sports fan better to a professional sports franchise like the Atlanta Braves than the Atlanta Braves have.
You're right.
I don't know Alex Anthopoulos, but Mallory lives 1 mile because I walk at home a lot rather than drive and pay the ridiculous parking fees to Larry Bud Melman. Would you like a hot towel? They don't even offer you a hot towel there. But anyway, I'm just saying, I think that the big thing that we got to look for in college athletics going forward is we can't be hijacked. We can't be hijacked by stupid people. But I look at the Braves. They have college nights for Georgia, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida State, Florida, South Carolina. Like, I left my cup. Well, the power went out early this morning over at the farm after 28 days of the air conditioning being out. It gets fixed yesterday afternoon. They finally get the chip in from Taiwan and Taiwan. And then the power goes out this morning at 6:21 a.m. And we're like, okay. So we're at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynn, Arkansas. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sound like the old Johnny Carson show. Remember, David Brenner would be out there going, I want to say I'm going to be at the Sands Hotel Thursday through Saturday in Las Vegas. And Johnny Carson would go, I did not know that. Shameless plug. And he'd say, Ed, what do you think? He'd go, Ed would be 3 seats to the wind, more messed up than a lab rat. But what a great job he had. But let's get back. This coffee's really good. But I'm thinking about the Braves, what they've done. what about in Texas with the Rangers, the ballpark, the generic ballpark, college? Okay. High school sports. Is there anything in Texas bigger than high school football?
No. I was going to say, Rob, to your point about the Braves too. When TBS, came on when they became the superstation in the 70s, man, it gave the Braves a national fan base, right? And of course, they were Bobby Cox, some of those great years or whatever. Dale Murphy, the old. We're going back to the teams of your youth. I know you followed, but no. In Texas high school football, man, it's the Coaches Association, after Commissioner Yormark of the Big 12 said that they're going to try to get more Friday night games on, said, ooh, that's a bad, in fact, like 30 years ago when I guess the Western Athletic Conference agreed to put on to start doing some Friday night games to the concern of the coaches out there. They had a Texas Tech, New Mexico game on Friday night from Albuquerque, and the Texas Coaches Association started a petition. Wow. And we got like 5,000 calls at the Southwest Conference office that said, we don't want football on Friday. We don't care if it's in Albuquerque or Syracuse or whatever, with the Southwest Conference team playing, the Texas Tech fans will watch it on TV and not come to the, Plainview game that night. So it's kind of a fine line they walk, really.
What you're saying is the state of Texas High School Football Coaches Association drives the narrative for high school football national. I agree. Don't mess with Friday nights.
That's right.
You shouldn't do it. And, I'm looking, the reason I'm saying that is that's how big high school football is. And then pro and college. And still there's 100,000 plus at DKR in Austin and at Kyle Field in College Station. So the interest and the growth is there. You know what, Bo? You get to go to all these media days. And you know who I met? I've heard about him forever. And I guess I'd met him before, but Claude Felton.
Yeah, the good guy.
Oh my God.
44 years.
He's walking around with the Georgia athletes on Media Row. I just went up and I talked to him and we talked about the show and just the mentors and just I just said, I hope you never retire. But you could tell he's like those super agents, like Merv Griffin. I mean, just doing his thing. Clive Davis, the great music producer, look, you get one chance at life. You get one trip to the plate. Hold your ground, watch for the good pitches. Don't swing at stupid stuff. I love it, but the future of college football is as strong as it's ever been. I want to get into it, and Franz is going to be with us here in just a minute. He's going to be on audio link this morning, not video. He said, in the state of Florida, if you get caught with video on in your vehicle, they will jack you up pretty good. I don't think they'll send you to the state penitentiary, but you could be on your way. But Franz will be on with us in a minute. Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin from West Virginia have decided to take the 9 most feared words in the American lexicon. Hello, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. We're going to ask these buffoons who could screw up a 2-car funeral to fix college athletics. Now, I know why Tommy Tuberville cares, because he's a coach, and we got to get some controls. And we know Joe Manchin is very close friends with Nick Saban, the head football coach at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. For those of you that don't know where it is, it's in, I love it when people go, remember the movie, James Bond movie, Live and Let Die, when they had the famous scene, the boat race and everything toward the end of the movie. And James Bond's walking up and the guy's talking to Sheriff J.W. and he says, now, J.W., he's a secret agent. And he goes, on whose side? He goes, well, he's from London, England. Well, there is an England, Arkansas. It's over near Stuttgart. It's just south of Slovak, not too far from Humnoke, kind of near Lownoke. Exactly. I mean, but I know all these towns. London, England, Paris, Frenchy. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, I'm glad Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin are reaching across the aisle and working together, because Tommy Tuberville was right. He said it. I've never seen a place where people work harder to work against each other.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the offense and the defense and special teams. but coaches, together, they're all on a team. They're all trying to beat the other team. Bo, your thoughts before Franz joins us, but your thoughts on the federal government is going to fix college athletics.
Oh, no,
I mean, how likely is that?
Yeah, well, and then you got, bless his heart, poor Mitch McConnell, who was born in Sheffield, Alabama, Rob of all.
Oh, God, I didn't know that.
I know his dad, Howell Heflin, Mitch McConnell, and Fred Thompson were all born at Colbert County Hospital. It's the
Mr. Haney, Hal Heflin, Hal Heflin's Mr. Haney. Well, Mr. Douglas, this here plow's only been dropped once. I'll give it to you for the price of $12.95. Mr. Haney, get out of here. I love that. But Mitch
we
McConnell,
need to get the Senator John Kennedy, from our Vanderbilt guy.
I want him on this show.
Leghorn.
Yeah, he is. John Kennedy is. Nobody will ever forget the Anita Thomas trial with Strom Thurmond and Hal Heflin and Strom Thurmond going, George Thomas, George.
George.
I think Strom lived to be about 150, and his wife was like 35 or 40 when he was 98, I think. And I remember seeing him in Washington. But what about this, Bo? You've got a lot more sense, and you can take all this complex minutia and put it in the vernacular. But isn't this a diametrically opposing argument? We got the NCAA, which is feckless and spineless, doing nothing. Then we've got the federal government that, I'm a Tommy Tuberville fan, but do you read the fine print in here? Let's break this down.
It all started, like in June 2021 when they, when the ruling came down that they could. Here's Franz.
Oh, here comes Franz on his way to the penitentiary.
Don't get arrested.
Don't get arrested, Franz. How are you?
Well, I am at the Orlando airport and I am circling. And which is probably what most of the planes are doing too. But picking up a business partner here at Orlando
Orlando International Airport.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, Mousetown International.
I got you. Hey, look, Franz, I'm getting Bo to comment first, and I want your thoughts after this. But Bo, about the federal government trying to fix NIL in the portal in college athletics.
No, it's like I said, going back June 2021 when they ruled that the names, images, and likenesses could be used to benefit college players. The states all passed individual law. Well, I think 32 initially passed individual laws, and I think from all I've talked with people, the NCAA didn't want to get involved in like 500 lawsuits. They're going to be at some point, but they didn't want to spend tons of money that would be going to the schools on legal representation. So they just decided to kind of let it go. And so you've got now, I think, 38 different state laws about the NIL. And the really complicated thing now, and they've got to get this under control. And the SEC and Big 12 and several people have sent delegations up there. The states are passing a thing that the NCAA cannot bring down punishment if somebody pays a guy $10 million and lures him from Texas to Alabama or whatever too. So I mean, there's so many, and the IRS is getting involved, as you know, to your accounting background and financial background, Rob. They want a piece of the action too. So there are like 15 different complicated things going on right now.
Well, it is, and Franz obviously was taken away by aliens a moment ago, and he's at the Orlando International Airport. And by the way, does anyone know anyone who knows anyone who is first, second, third generation in Orlando? I mean, is that a witness protection program town?
That's right.
I mean, it's all a bunch of carnies that work down there, at Disney World. Don't you just love carnies? I remember as a kid going to the Mid-South Fair, and you'd always buy one of those lizards that would change colors. You'd put them on your shoulder in a box, and 2 or 3 days later, they'd be in the back of your backpack under your leftover lunch, dead. That was an interesting time. But I used to always see these carnies, and they go, step right up, take your shots. Come on there, doll. You look like a Annie Oakley there. You'll shoot them all. $1. You know, you go to the freak show and there'd be the 5-legged goat and the bearded woman in there, and you know, zip the pinhead, and you'd be like, gosh, I got to go home. You know, but man, you know, I'm just curious, and Franz is back with us right now. Franz, let's get your thoughts about, you wrote some really good material in GatorbaitMedia.com, your daily thoughts, your one final pithy thought. But a lot has happened in the last 48 hours since you were on the show earlier this week with Congress to the rescue. And we think about the turtle, Mitch McConnell, and we think about what Tommy Tuberville and Joe Manchin are trying to do. And Tommy Tuberville's on this show a lot. Used to be on every week until he became a senator, and now he's kind of busy. But I'm gonna have to get Katie Britt on here. And I'll be fishing here soon with Wesley. And I'll just say this, Franz, you and Bo, very smart, and you can transfer all this complex stuff, but lay it out on the table so that Floyd R. Turbo in Olathe, Kansas can figure this out. Is it good or bad?
Bad. Horrible. Worse than bad, worse than horrible. Absolutely. If Congress, which can't figure out anything, believe me, Senator Proxmire of Wisconsin used to have this thing called the Golden Fleece Awards. And
William Proxmire.
The Golden Fleece Awards were about what people were doing, which, you know, in our government, the programs they were paying for that made absolutely no sense at all. I mean, none. And one of the things they did was, there was a study in which a $10 million grant was given to study why people use the word in the South, use the word ain't. 2 years later, after going through the $10 million, they concluded it's because we always have. So these people, you're the smartest, allegedly, the smartest, the best and the brightest among us, the future Einsteins, the people who are leading our, you know, feeding the minds of our young people, giving them some.
Well, we got friends trying to imitate R2D2. We can't hear you.
So why don't you just go to Congress? Nothing.
Franz, you're breaking up a little bit. We'll try to get you back on. But basically, what we have here to watch Strother Martin, the great actor who played Captain in the movie Cool Hand Luke, and we watched the last 35 minutes of that movie the other night at the hotel up in Nashville. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Old Luke's a good old boy, but he don't want to spend a little time in the box and get his head right. And you think about Bo, Franz, hopefully Franz, okay, we're seeing now his shirt. I don't know what we got going on here. We'll let him log back in for a second. But, you know, essentially the cabinet that we have in government is very reminiscent of the bar scene in the original Star Wars movie. I mean, it's a freak show of human pornography. I don't know where we're going, because how are they going to how are we going to fix anything with these people? All we need to do is the conferences. The conferences can fix this.
Yep.
And say, look, if I'm Greg Sankey, I'm going to say, okay, Texas and A&M, y'all have your rule in Texas, but we're members of one conference spread out 16 schools over 12 states. Mm-hmm. We're either all on the same page, or maybe y'all need to go back and join another conference. I mean, that's kind of, but the NIL rules, and again, the people with the money, I think it's more of a little bit of money from a lot of people. I don't think your big traditional donors are really as involved in it. But Franz, jump back in when you can. I was just pointing out that, Congress and the cabinet and the so-called leaders of our country, it's reminiscent of the bar scene in the original Star Wars movie. It's a mess. So let's get back to your thoughts. It almost sounded like that hee-haw song when I asked you the current state of this NIL rule, and you said gloom, despair, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Back to you, Franz, from the Orlando airport, our roving correspondent. We lost Franz again. Maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe the government is censoring us.
They're shooting.
I don't know. I know later today, Bo is going to be the Grand Marshal in a nude Shriners parade in Carrollton, Texas, and there'll be a lot going on out there. But Bo, we got to do something, because you've got an supposedly $8 million NIL deal at Tennessee with Nico Lamaliva. And last Thursday, I spent a lot of time asking questions to Joe Milton, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the quarterback out of Pahokee, Florida, the Muck, about Tennessee football. And he's going to be the starter until he's not. So you're paying this kid, Lamaliva, to sit. Now, I understand in the pros, you draft a guy and, in the first round, you pay him a lot of money, typically that you expect them to come in and start. But, wait till we have a sponsor who's a big sponsor, traditional brick and mortar sponsor of your school. And then also he does some NIL, and the player he's sponsoring gets in trouble, gets a DUI, gets, and just gets in trouble with the law. And you suspend him. And he says, well, I tell you, Foghorn Leghorn's my character. I see. I'm done supporting the university because my boy isn't playing. So I'm pulling all my funding and all future funding until he's back out there. Then you're caught in a pickle, a compromising situation. What do? Do you see a scenario where that could happen? Both sometimes there are stories, rumors about in the state of Texas, boosters spending money to get athletes. Now we've only heard about such malfeasance, but expand.
Yeah, you're right. Rob.
Do you need a hot towel for that one from Larry Doug Millman?
If this had been 38 years ago, SMU wouldn't have gotten in trouble. They had their own NIL program before it started, unfortunately. Yes. And but no, we were laughing. But no, it's such a big mess. And I've mentioned this a couple times on the show. Jim Boeheim said essentially Miami just went out and bought a basketball team. They brought in 8 or 10 transfers. I think they had a $5 million portal fee. The Texas Tech, I think, has got the best solution. This is what they really ought to look at nationally. Yeah. They paid everybody on the team $25,000, and you don't have the lineman saying, "Hey, I only got 500, and the quarterback got $1 million," or what. I mean, it's the old. It sounds communistic, but it's the one for all and all for. And I mean that way, everybody, the kids that don't have much of a family finance background can make enough to take people out on a date or whatever, or go buy a car or what. But when you get the $1 million quarterback and the $500 lineman, there might be some Burt Reynolds ghost blocking.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And Franz, can you imagine the conversations in Washington about reforming what is considered to be malfeasance and corruption? And it's kind of like when people are accused of lying before Congress. I'm like, well, they're lying to you. I mean, but Franz Beard, a native born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, your thoughts?
Well, turning the NCAA turning its problems over to Congress is like, I got a tumor on my brain, so I'm going to call Roto-Rooter.
Only Franz can put it like that.
I mean, really, you think about it. You probably have a better chance with Roto-Rooter of getting it done right than you do with the brain surgeon. Just saying, Congress has not gotten anything right about anything in years. So why would we think that these people have any sort of a chance to actually get something done for problems like this? And what does it say that the people who are supposed to be the smartest people in the entire English-speaking world have to turn it over to people who can't do anything at all. What does it say about them and their ability to lead? What does it say about the quality of education kids are getting these days? What it says is we have this great big, well, for lack of a better term, we have the sludge on the bottom of the septic tank. And that's what we've got. And football, I'm going to tell you what, folks, football has done more to raise the quality of life in the African American community than anything on this planet. Because how many of these kids go on to the NFL? Not that many. But how many of them get college degrees and go back to their community and start businesses? And all of a sudden you've got businesses employing people. I'll give you an example. Remember Lawrence Wright? He's the guy that hit Joey Kent so hard that we had to be looking through binoculars to see the spit bubbles coming out of the corners of his mouth to know that he was alive. And that was in 1995. That was the one that Sports Illustrated had a picture of Peyton Manning on the cover, and it looked like he'd lost his puppy. And
you're correct, sir.
So anyway, what has Lawrence Wright done? He's from Liberty City, one of the most impoverished places in America. He is in Liberty City. And what has he done? He has a foundation. He has an apprentice school. He has a construction company. He is teaching kids how to be bricklayers and concrete workers. He's teaching them how to do all sorts of things like this in the construction field, and then putting them to work on construction projects, electricians, plumbers, etc. Guess what we have shortages of in America? Because everybody has this notion that you are a nobody if you don't have a college degree. Well, guess what? You can be very successful if you're a plumber. I asked a friend of mine who owns a plumbing company in Gainesville, who has a lot of plumbers. I said, how many plumbers do you have working for you? And he gave me a number. And I said, what does your average plumber make? And he said, oh, in a bad year, they'll all make about $80,000. And I'm thinking to myself, here is my brother, the best math teacher on the planet. And with all these bonuses and everything like this, he's making 50 grand.
Wow.
God. So, you know, something is sideways here.
Yeah.
And these people, we've done all this stuff, and you think about it. We got shortages in carpentry. We got shortages in brick masons, all these things. And yet we keep pushing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Football is a right thing, folks. And I'm going to tell you why. 85 scholarships, most of them to African-American kids. Those African-American kids, of them, you got to figure out of 85 on scholarship every year, 6 of them are going to go on to play professional football.
Yeah.
So what are the other 79 going to do? If the other 79 have college degrees, they're going to be like Lawrence Wright. They're going to go back and do something. We can't turn this over to Congress. Congress screws it up.
That's right.
Let hire consultants. Go out there and tell Greg Sankey, look, I know the SEC is paying you $5 million a year. We'll pay you $50 million a year if you'll sort this out, hire the people, and fix it, because it can be fixed. There's a right way to do it. But you can't put tube back in a toothpaste. It's going to take a brand new organization.
Yeah. And Franz, no, you're nailing it. And I'm sitting there looking at my monitor here. Bob Dylan, My Back Pages, the 30th anniversary. That was one of the greatest songs. You know, I was older then, but I'm younger than that now. You know, we're getting smarter.
I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. Oh, heavens.
And Uncle Charlie, my great friend, has been to 19 Dylan shows over the years. And just, you know, you think about some of the lines you hear in songs and where we are right now, Bo. You know, we just heard Franz Beard wax eloquently about what is happening, and he's spot on. Bo, you know, working first. I know when I was at Auburn, they were telling me about a guy that played at Florida, Wilbur Marshall. You know, Bo, Franz, you know this. These guys' home situations, a lot of them, they're scary. And what it means for them, I will tell you this. If you've got kids and they're young, do them a favor. Stand outside that locker room when the players come out, win or lose, especially after a loss, and look at how many people support their families, coaches, you know, pastors, teachers, friends from their small towns. Listen, you come from a small town, Franz and Bo, to play football for the Gators or Mississippi State or LSU, you name the school. There are a lot of people that go with you. There's a lot of people that are living what you're doing. But Franz is right. It's a game changer. Bo, you know, without you can name names if you want to, if not, protect them. But some of the stories, did you have some incredible stories through the years, like at Mississippi State from some guys that may have come from some town in the Delta where they may have been the first person in their family to ever graduate high school? Like my friend, Dr. Bill Hardgrave, University of Memphis president, was at Auburn for 12 years, Arkansas for 17. I've told friends this, but he's the first person in his family to finish past 10th grade, Clarksville, Arkansas, because everybody had to go work in the factories. He's got a PhD in information systems from Oklahoma State, and Bobby Lauder helped bring him to Lauder Hall and the Harvard College of Business Management now to be the dean of the College of Business. And what that man did, Franz and Bo and everybody listening, here's a guy who was the first person in his family to ever go past 10th grade. Clarksville's between Conway and Fort Smith. He goes to Auburn and increases enrollment in the College of Business from 2010 to 2017, about 47%. Then he's the provost at Auburn, and then on April 1st of 2022, he takes over at the University of Memphis. He's doing some incredible things up there. That's one person. Bottom line is, my wife Audrey said something about people, especially if they come from humble beginnings. Don't ever walk by them going down the street without acknowledging them and saying hello. Franz, you know this. Bo, you know this. But Bo, talk about some of the cool stories of guys you've experienced that came from, I don't ever want to say nothing because you came from God and a mom and a dad and a family, and that's more than that. That's a lot.
Well, Rob, you mentioned one, Johnny Cooks, one of 9 children. I think, again, first guy to ever get a degree, played the NFL and then became worked for the Bulldog Club for Mississippi State for several years before his health failed him or whatever too. Michael Haddock's great running back from Shannon, Mississippi. These guys, well, hey, Franz, here's one sort of a different thing. Mike McEnany, whose daughter was press secretary for President Trump. Interesting deal there. Yeah. But Mike was a walk-on, 188-pound defensive end who was second team All-SEC. I think he's still like is number 5 in Mississippi State. He owns like a multi-million-dollar roofing company in Tampa now, and came out very humble, went to Killian High in Miami or whatever too.
His daughter's the one who was Trump's press secretary.
Yeah, Kelly McEnany. Yeah. She's married to a former.
Cassie is the Holy Names High School. Southern Baptist going to an all-Catholic girls' school.
I know.
Hey, by the way, friends, Calvary Episcopal Church in Memphis, the oldest public building in Memphis, second in Adams since 1832. The Gieselmans helped found it. They have, during Lent, they have a speaker every day during Lent, Monday through Friday, upstairs in the church. And some of the most unbelievable speakers are the Catholic priests who were trained in the Baptist seminary in Birmingham or Dallas and then converted to Catholicism. They know the Bible like my grandmother, who was Church of Christ, backwards and forwards, okay? But they are incredible. You get that combination, that's like someone's a Navy SEAL, a Ranger, and Delta Force, Coach Delta doesn't exist, but I think this is you're naming off these stories. And friends, at Florida, some of the guys, I got to talk to Joe Milton III, friends, last Thursday at Media Days. You know what I asked him? I said, hey, talk about being from the muck in Pahokee and what it means to come from there to be the starter at Michigan, now the starter at Tennessee. And you know what he said, friends? He looked at me like, how the hell did you know about the muck? And I said, my guys at GatorbaitMedia.com, Buddy Martin, Franz Beard, and Ben Troop talk about the muck a lot. And he goes, let me tell you something. You come from Pahokee. Pahokee's a small town. He goes, we got a Dollar General, a Family Dollar, we got a gas station, and then we got an eat and go. That's it. He goes, in a small town, you learn about hard work, and everybody knows each other. Everybody looks out for each other. And he goes, and I take that with me every day, wherever I am of my life. And Franz and Bo, y'all get to write about this. And I do too. But you meet these people and they're from humble beginnings. As Keith Jackson one time said on an ABC football game about football coaches in the South, it was an Iron Bowl. And he said, these coaches down here in the South, they may talk funny, but they don't think funny. And Franz, think about Wilbur Marshall and some of these other guys that you just mentioned. These are the stories that need to be out on the forefront. There are so many great stories about student athletes and what they do and what they overcome. But that opportunity, I heard a guy yesterday at ACC Media Days. His name is Christian Mahogany. He's an offensive lineman for Boston College. And he said what the Gator, my favorite Gator maybe ever, Kingsley Egaquin, I interviewed him last week. He said, NIL, he goes, honestly, no offense, but that's a silly reason to go somewhere. He goes, you'll get your money if you get your degree. Well, the guy from Boston College yesterday, you know what he said? He goes, just leaving for a couple $100,000 to go to another school and leaving my teammates and my brothers that I've been through so much with that I came in here. He goes, I couldn't do it. He goes, for me, it's always been about the NFL, not the NIL. And Audrey and I were watching that. We were like, kaboom, what a great response. And Hafler, the coach up there at Boston College, people need to be looking at all the great stories that are happening around us in college athletics. But we're going to save this, but we damn sure don't need Washington getting involved. I mean, that's like bringing gas to the fire. Just doesn't make any sense.
Like I said, it's like asking Roto-Rooter to come do brain surgery.
Yeah.
We have a situation where we need some brain surgery done, and we have just called Roto-Rooter and asked them to, and be sure to bring the snake because we got to clean out them brains. Oh,
yeah,
come on.
That's right. Hey, guys, we've run out of time, unfortunately. Unbelievable show. And Bo Carter, you and Franz both have such, cerebral experiences, but you're able to put it in writing. There are a lot of scientific people. Albert Einstein was sent home from school because he was, quote, too dumb to learn. Worked out pretty well for old Al. But both of y'all are great at putting things in the vernacular. And I like Franz's analogy with Roto-Rooter, and Bo, what you said about these student athletes. But look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Don't ever miss an opportunity every day when you wake up to say, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. And I absolutely believe in great writing, teammates for life. Jeff Miller, got to get him on here about the Auburn 1972, the Amazons. But don't ever miss an opportunity to thank the people that help you along the way. And also, Franz, do not get in trouble for having the video on. I don't want you to be hauled away during the show. But anyway, great show. We got a great lineup in store for you tomorrow. But great time as always. We've been at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Service department on Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Austin Futural, the great team back there. They're here to help. Again, thank you. We are out of here.